Hello designers, this is Rebecca and I'm going to show you how to get started on your vintage logo. So first we're going to make a new file and I'm going to choose from the print profile letter and choose landscape and hit create. Great, so now I'm going to bring in my thumbnail sketch. So I'll hit place and I'll find that sketch and hit place, and then I will drag it across my artboard to make it fit nicely. Whoa, where are you going? Okay, there it is. And then that's good. I can double click on layer 1 and it'll bring up the layer options. We can call this template, and I can actually check the template box here. And what that does is instantly dim it by 50% and lock it for us so that we can't accidentally select it. I'm going to make a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon at the bottom of the layers panel. I'm going to name this one main type and hit OK. And then I'll go ahead and I would like to get started figuring out my type first. This is a super rough sketch. As you can see, it's not perfectly uniform or anything. There's no specific measurements. My S's are different sizes, everything, but that's okay. It's just a guide to kind of keep me on track and to help me do some problem solving in the first place. So I'm going to select my type tool, and I'll just drop some text right here, and I'll type in Sonora, and then I will go ahead and use my selection tool, go to my properties panel, and I will change my type to Cassandra because that's what I'm using for this. And let's crank this up. So I'm just selecting the corner and holding down shift so that I don't distort my type there. Great. And then let me go ahead and duplicate this by still using my selection tool. I'll hold down my option or alt key and click and drag and pull this down. Okay, fun. So now I have Sonora. Let me change the bottom text to serpent and spell it correctly. Great. And then just kind of reposition everything so it's nice on the canvas. Okay, now I can turn off the visibility of that template layer so that it's not, overwhelmingly busy. And now that I have my main text figured out, there's a few different ways that I can give this text some visual interest by giving it sort of a rise or some sort of a slant to it. So my favorite way to do this is to use the free transform tool. It's right here underneath the width tool. You can also just hit E for free. And when you hit that tool, you get this little pop-up menu here. This one right here is the free transform option. The one above it is constrain. Below it is perspective distort, and then free distort. We're just going to use the regular free transform option. And when you hover over the side of the bounding box, over the center little circle there, you're going to see your cursor change to a plus with arrowheads on each side. If you click and drag up and down, you're going to see your shape start to distort. Now, we don't want to distort our text because distorting text is a rookie move. So hold down the shift button, and that's going to lock the width of the text, but it's going to raise it so that we can keep our stems all perfectly vertical. That looks way cool. So that's what I'm going to probably end up using for this example, but I'm going to show you a few other ways. So let me hit Command Z a couple times to undo that. And I'll use my selection tool. I have both pieces of type selected. Now, a lot of times when people are first learning typography and they try to make sort of a slant or a raise with their text, they'll just hover outside the bounding box corner until their arrow turns into a double curved arrow, and then just rotate that text. And it just does not look as good with these stems at a slant. Unless there's other things in your composition that are also slanted. If you're going for a Bauhaus kind of layout, then that's totally cool. Then go ahead and just slant it way up, like a good 30 to 45 degrees or more. Make it super intentional. But if you're just trying to give it a nice little rise, you can use that free transform option, or you can use any of the envelope distort warp options. So let's go ahead and look at those. So I'm going to go into object and then go down to envelope distort and then choose make with warp. Now when we do this, we get our warp options pop-up panel there. And can I move this up? I can't move this up while I have this warp option selected. But what we can do is check our preview button. This first one is rise. That's what mine defaulted to, but I think maybe because that was one of the last things I had selected. So let's start from the top. This is arc, and arc gets a little crazy because it expands and distorts the top. And that's kind of okay for Victorian type because a lot of it was handwritten and they may have intentionally made it look like that. There's another one, there's lower arc. There is arc upper. And so when using these warped options, it does work better if you do one line of type at a time. Let me just preface that. So here's arc. I like arc. That's one of my favorites because it's a little bit more uniform across the whole board, and our two sides are the same height, and so you don't get a ton of distortion at the top there. So arc is a really good option. Bulge is a little crazy. Then there's shell lower and shell upper. Those ones are a little bizarre. They add some sort of perspective, but I think it's a little too much. This is flag. Flag can look really nice when you do them individually. You don't get as much distortion, and it just looks a lot better. Wave is a really nice one too when used at one line at a time. Fish is not something we even need to look at. Here's a rise, and this is a pretty drastic rise. So I can go ahead and I can pull this back and just adjust it there. And then we can also adjust how much distortion we allow vertically and horizontally. And you can change your bend between horizontal and vertical in this option. And then fisheye is a little silly. That doesn't look too crazy here, but sometimes it can look really nuts. Here's inflate, it's similar to fisheye, just a little bit more blown out on the edge. Squeeze, don't know why we'd use that for now, and twist is out of control. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel for now because I do like the free transform option for this one. But if you have one word that's going across a banner, then go ahead and give rise or wave a chance in the envelope distort. Okay, so let me go ahead and select these again. I will hit the free transform button. I will tilt this up while holding down shift, and that looks good to me. So just a little subtle, little nice little rise there. Okay, so now that I have these done, that part done, I'm going to show you a really fun feature of Illustrator that's sort of new. I'll move this back and I'll overlap my S's here a bit. And let me change the colors so that you can really see this here. Sorry. So let's go into our swatches panel, and in here is the libraries, swatch libraries menu. If you click on that, it's going to bring up a bunch of preloaded color palettes for you that are made up into little color groups. And so under art history, you could choose any of these, but Impressionism is about the time that Victorian fonts were around. And so I chose this second palette, but you can choose any. And when you see one you like, you can just click on the little folder there and it automatically pops it into your swatches panel. Okay. And then you can just close that panel when you're done. So for the top one, I will apply this sort of periwinkle color. And then for serpent, of course, I'll apply a nice green. I think that lighter green's looking good. So then I have this overlap over here, and I changed the colors so that you can see this demo better. I'm going to hold down shift and select both of these. I'm going to go to object and down to intertwine and then make. And when you do that, you're going to see a little lasso tool show up, but you can hover over certain areas and click on them and you'll see a little sort of halftone pattern show up on the areas that are overlapping. And you can choose where you'd like it to intertwine with the text above this. And what's so neat about this is that this is live text still. So I could change this letter if I needed to, and it will still intertwine. It's not as perfect, right? But we'll leave it as an S. But the point is that the text is still editable. It's not converted to outlines or expanded. So that's a pretty cool little feature there. That's object and then intertwined. And then you just click where you'd like with the little lasso that shows up as your cursor. Okay, so next we're going to do type on a path. And so I'm going to make it a circular path. And so what I need to do first is create the path by using our ellipse tool. I selected the ellipse tool. It's underneath the rectangle tool over there in your toolbar. And you can also hit L on your keyboard for ellipse. I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key so I can draw my ellipse from the center. I'm going to also hold down Shift at the same time so that it makes a perfect circle. And there it is. I don't need a fill right now, so I'll just do my little swap fill and stroke. You can also hit Shift X to make that happen. But I do want to have a little stroke so that I can see the path while I'm working here. So type on a path is buried underneath your type tool. It is the third option down, and I can click on my path here, and then you're going to see some type show up. I'm going to change my font to Bridge Garden, so I'll just start typing in Bridge Garden over there, and I'll just do regular for now, and I'm going to adjust my type to, let's see, I think we'll try 36 for now. And I'm going to type in 3 blind mice. That will be my first little, the top of my text there. I'm going to change to my selection tool. Then I can go up to the type menu and choose type on a path from there, and then choose type on a path options. From there, we can click the preview button if you need to. Affect rainbow is fine, but align the path, we want to change it to center so that the center line of our path cuts our type right in half. And then I'll hit OK. Now, I find that using the direct selection tool for this part, for rotating the text, just makes it behave a lot better. It's a lot nicer with the direct selection tool. So you just grab that, that first little wand there, and you can use your smart guides to see when you're centered up, and then grab the second one. Oopsie, let's try that again. Use my selection tool to grab the text. Let me go ahead and just lock this layer real fast so that it stops grabbing me. There we go. I'll grab that, change to my direct selection tool by hitting A on my keyboard, and now I can grab this and rotate it. And I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it here. That looks good to me. Let's see. I'm not going to grab this one over here because that's going to flip the text. So I just need to adjust it with that one. Not quite there yet. Okay, I'll let that be the one. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my selection tool, select this and copy it or duplicate it, holding down Alt or Option on my keyboard, and just move it over to the side. Now I'm going to type in with my type on a path tool again, 3 blind mice, dance on her tongue. I know, weird, right? But that's what these fun vintage shows are all about. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go back up into my type and type on a path options. This time I'm going to check this flip button here and hit OK. So that's going to drop it down to the bottom so that the text is going right side up. I'll hit my direct selection tool or press A on my keyboard. Now remember, you have to, oh, that's the line we don't want to move. I'm going to go ahead and nudge this down. Just try to center it up a bit. This. You can also use your center align options too. That helps a bit. So I'm going to, with my regular selection tool, select both of these 2 circles. And then in my properties panel, I'll use these align tools. I'm going to do a horizontal align center as well as a vertical align center. And then those are lined up together. So that's nice. I can just move them down a bit. I'm going to do a couple other circles just to enclose all of this. So I'm going to start, while that's selected, I have my ellipse tool also selected. I'm going to hover my crosshair right over that center point, and then I'll hold down my Option and Shift key to create a little circle that just goes past it there. Now I will create one more circle by holding down Option. Oh, I have to change to my selection tool. Hold down Option, or you can just do like copy and paste in front if you'd like to do that. But this one I'm going to shrink it down, and I can shrink it from the center holding down Option as well. And then I can align these puppies. Boop, boop. Great. So I can't see what's going on here. So first of all, I need to make a compound path. So a compound path is basically when you use a shape to cut a window through another shape. It's really cool, and because it's instead of just using the Pathfinder tool to delete the overlap or trim or any of those commands, when you make a compound path, the inside path of the window is still editable. It's really neat. So I'm going to choose these two circles here. I want the smaller one on top so that that is the window part that gets cut out. And then I'm going to go to Object, Compound Path, and Make. You can also just right click and choose that as well. That option will be there. It's probably over here as well in the Properties panel, but I'm not sure. So now I'm going to move, I'm going to look at my layers panel. I'm going to move that compound path below the two dance on her tongue and three blind mice text layers. So now it's behind there. I'll select those two text layers and fill that type with white. Yay, now I can see. Cool. And I can, once again, select all three. I thought I had done this earlier when I selected the two, but it didn't happen. So now all three are aligned, centered. Beautiful. So let's say we want to put a portrait or an illustration inside this circle. Let's go ahead and go over to Photoshop. I'm going to show you how to make a photo look sort of like a lithograph. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to Photoshop. I found this really cool vintage photo of this lovely lady, and I like this braid going around her hair. I feel like it's kind of snake-like for vintage times. And so this lady is the serpent lady because she has a super long tongue. That's why. And then she has little pet mice and they do a little dance on her tongue. That's my story for her. So the first thing that I like to do whenever I bring any image into Photoshop is go to Image and choose Auto Contrast. And look at that, brought out some really beautiful highlights in her face. It brightened the whole thing up. So that's all I need to do for this since it's a black and white photo. If you wanted to, you can also do auto color and auto tone. Totally up to you. But we're going to turn it black and white anyway. So if your photo is not already black and white, go to go to the adjustment layers down here and choose a black and white adjustment layer. From there, you can use the blue filter is nice, or you can just see what you like in there in the little presets drop-down menu. So since mine's already done, I'm going to go to adjustments, and I just want to show you this because it's so fast and so cool. You can scroll through these different options once your image is converted, and then they will just automatically apply these beautiful adjustment layers to it. So for the black and white, there is a cool adjustment layer that's like a sepia or a cyanotype, and then there's a warm one that's like a sepia tone. And these will be authentic to the time. The only thing is that if neither of those colors are in your color palette, then don't use them. So try to find one that is in your color palette, and that would be the best. So for me, this Moody Blues one is very similar to that periwinkle color, so I'm going to choose that. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So if you wanted to make it look like a chromolithograph, then you will need to go in and do some hand coloring. So I can link to a video that shows you how to do some hand coloring if you'd like. If you have a color photo, you may be able to get away with some of these photo repair ones and then just kind of really up the saturation and the vibrance so that it just looks a little more cartoony, like the colors that look more painted and cartoony. So she looks great. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's head back over to Illustrator. All right, so from here, we'll bring her in. We'll go ahead and place her. So I'll go to File, Place, and find her. Great. I can place just the Photoshop file right in there, and I will make it go a little past that circle in the center there. I think it would look better if she was looking to the left instead. So over here in my Properties panel, I'm just going to hit this little flip horizontally button, boop, and then there she goes. And then I'm going to create a clipping mask for her picture. So let me move her to the side a bit and draw another oval, another ellipse. So I'll come to the center of this circle. I'll let my smart guides tell me when I'm in the center. Hold down Alt or Option and Shift. I'm going to make that circle a little bigger than the actual center of the clipping mask, just so that I have room to move her around if she's not quite centered for me. And then I'll slide her back over there and get her to fit in that circle pretty well. That looks good. I'll select her and the circle. Make sure the shape that you want to do to apply the clipping mask is on top of the thing that is getting the application. So we're going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. And now she's in a lovely little circle. So I'm going to go back into my Layers panel and just make sure she's behind the black circle there. And then I can use my selection tool to nudge her around. I'm just using the keys on my keyboard to get that beautiful hair in there and sort of center her up. That looks nice to me. All right. And we are done with this part. So thank you so much for watching.